Say pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, for the record, we are having technical difficulties and we are recording this via a phone to be downloaded by our IT people when we can get that done. So we're going to call this regular board meeting to order, ORS 192.630, and we're going to move to the consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to read the regular board minutes and the executive session minutes from October 8th?
Yes, I move we approve the consent agenda.
All right, anybody have any changes to any of it? No. Okay, Mark moved, Deb seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Recognition input of guests, staff, and correspondence. Looks like we have Deb Titus here. Welcome. And I'm sorry, what's your name?
Mindy Davis.
Mindy Davis from Connected Professional Accountants with the audit report. So if you are ready, go
ready.
for it.
I'm ready. Video. Oh boy, well, thank you for having me. As most of you know by now, Yvonne has retired, and Diana, who is the lead, has been the lead on this audit for several years now, texted me this morning and she is sick. So I was in the field working with everybody this year and getting reacquainted with Union School District. I was on Union School District's audit for several years, a long time ago, before my little kids were born. So now they're grown and big, and so I get to come back out again. So I was there, I have reviewed the report and everything, so I'm filling in tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you. I especially just want to thank Moody for her help. She obviously has a few years under her belt now. She knows the routine. She answers our questions. She knows just what we want, so it's very smooth. Everything goes very well. She's very friendly and professional and helpful the whole time there. And thank you to all of you for contracting with our firm again to do the audit. We do appreciate your business very much, and patronizing local businesses is very important to us, so we appreciate that you hire us, and we try to do the same with businesses in our community. I'm just going to give you a quick overview once again about what an audit is and what we do while we're there. I think, how can I make this, an audit presentation a little more impressive? And I'm like, I could do Vanna White and be like, and here is a beautiful balanced balance sheet. Anyway, I'll just stick to my notes. So, as most of you probably know right now, Oregon revised statutes require governments to have an audit if they expend over $1 million. That number did recently change, but it doesn't really matter to schools anyway because schools are just automatic. You just have to have an audit no matter how much you spend anyway. An audit does not look at every single transaction. What we do is we come and test the financial information to make sure that it is materially stated. So we don't look at every transaction and make sure that it's just right down to the 32 cents, but we're just making sure there is a calculation of a materiality level based on your revenues and expenses. And the idea is that it's fair enough that a third party looking at it wouldn't be misled. So pretty close, but we don't test every single thing. It's not designed to catch every error or every fraud, but if we do come across those during our testing, then we are required to report those things to you. What we do while we're there is We assess, one thing we do while we're there is we assess your internal control system, which means who's doing what and how your system is going to catch errors if there were errors. So we analyze all the processes that are happening, such as cash disbursements, so who initiates that transaction, who reviews it, who records it, is it accurate or not. Another thing we do is we determine the riskier areas, and we focus on those. So at the school, the areas of risk that we identified are cash receipts. So anytime cash is being collected, that's a little bit riskier situation. That happens more often with student body, like they're collecting money out here at games, or if they're turning in fees at the office. So there's not a lot of cash, but a little bit, so that's one of the areas. Any governmental entity that has a budget, there is pressure to miscategorize items in order to stay in those budget items. So that is a very common risk that we identify at governments. And in our area, small staff, having a small staff can, present some risk in itself, just because there aren't as many eyes in the room. Also, limited state funding can be a problem. When people get desperate and they get squeezed, sometimes that introduces some risk. Two more are large transactions. So a large transaction is riskier because if one mistake is made, then that can misstate your financial statement. So if one property tax check is miscategorized, then that could cause a problem and make them materially misstated. Or one large asset purchase, if that's put in the wrong place, that could, just one mistake could make a material misstatement. And also ADM. ADM is a risky area because everybody's motivated for the school to get more money. So we look at those ADM figures pretty closely, and the attendance records and lunch counts and everything that go into that calculation. And then the result of an audit is an opinion, and we'll go through this handout that I gave you. The result is our audit opinion, where we say what we've done and if we believe these financial statements are materially stated or not. So when we're here, some of the specific tests that we do on the financial information that Mindy provides us with is for revenue. We are able to confirm most of that revenue. The state gives us a list. This is the money we gave them. So that's a very easy test. We can very quickly see if all that money made it into your bank account. For expenditures, we do test the controls in this area. Like I said before, we're making sure that the responsibilities are divided up a little bit. We have checks and balances, not just one person is writing the checks, putting it in the system, taking it to the bank, that there is some division and some approval process in place. We do substantiate all significant assets and liabilities, such as cash. We look at your bank reconciliations that they're being performed accurately and timely. And then we do a lot of general procedures, like we're required to read all your minutes, to just notify us about what the situation is, if there's any new debt being incurred, all kinds of things. And then there's all kinds of tests that Oregon minimum standards require, such as the budget process, that you're going through the correct process to implement the budget, or public contracting laws. If you're making a large purchase and you have to get bids, so many bids. So we do testing like that. Just a few of the benefits of having an audit. First, obviously, is that you're complying with the state filing requirement on time. We prepare your report and file it with the state timely, which you're required to do. But more than that, accountability, is a good motivation for everybody just to know that people are going and looking and people care about what these numbers are. And you want to know that your information is reliable. You need reliable information timely to make important decisions, whether you're going to spend money or it's time to save or you're going to raise fees. You know, you need to know that your information is reliable in order to make those decisions. And then again, that assessment of controls, that's working and functioning properly. The required communications, you know, there's all kinds of auditing rules that we have to follow. There's a list of required communications. First is the engagement letter. One of you signed that engagement letter at the beginning, and it tells all of our responsibilities, all of your responsibilities. So that happens early in the year, maybe in May, whenever you contract with our firm. Management has signed a representation letter, so Mindy did sign that letter, and it just says that she told us the truth about every question that we asked while we were here in a big long list of items. And then the next, this is where we start with the packet. The next required communication is the letter. That first letter that's in your packet is called the governance letter. And this again is just a lot of required communications that we are required to give to governments, which is you all. And this mostly is standard language. It says we didn't have any disagreements with management. We are required to talk about estimates, and the only estimate that we really identified in your financial statements is depreciation of capital assets, because you're kind of estimating how long you think that asset's going to last and expensing it over that time. And then attached to that letter is the adjusting journal entries. That's the third letter, the third piece of paper behind there. The adjusting journal entries that we provided to Mindy while we're here. But as I looked through this list, all of these are just fairly routine, nothing out of the ordinary journal entries. Just adjusting beginning fund balance to actual, recording that the amount you're holding that people have paid for lunches that hasn't been used up yet at the end of the year. You can go down the list if you have any questions, but none of these are out of the ordinary. There's one reclassifying revenue from one line to another. We aren't concerned about any of these. They're pretty all routine. The next letter that you have is called a management, we call it a management letter, or it's the communication of deficiencies letter. And you'll see there's a number 1 with a material weakness. And if you've been here any number of years, you know by now that that's been there forever. And that is just that we prepare the financial statements for you. And when the auditors prepare the financial statements for you, our standards just require us to disclose that we're doing that for you. You will also see that our recommendation says the auditors do not recommend any change due to this issue. So that is very, very common in small governments. I would say nearly every government in our county has this in their letter. But you don't have any others, so that's really good news, because this list gets kind of long for other entities when we notice that things like bank recs aren't being done for 6 months, or the cash disbursement process is not working, disbursements aren't being approved, or, I mean, this list can get really long. So you should be very proud that you just have, that we prepare your financial statements for you. If we move into the actual audit report, the next important thing, which I told you was the result of the audit, is our opinion. It says independent audit report. It's on page 1. And this is a lot of standard language again. I think the most important sentences here that I've highlighted, and that is that, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present in all material respects the modified cash basis financial position of the government. So that's an unqualified opinion saying we believe the financial statements to be materially correct after those journal entries and after the testing that we've performed. The other important parts are is a lot of verbiage about what your responsibility is and what our responsibility is. Responsibilities of management. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements. So that is your responsibility. The auditor's responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. And that's what we do right here. So we call this a clean opinion. I will just quickly go over just a few of the numbers that might be interesting to you. Here's my Vanna White and my beautifully balanced balance sheet. On page 4, we have the statement of net position. The most important number on this page is that this shows you that your assets exceed your liabilities by $13,708,000. So that's nice. And page 5 over here is the statement of activities, and this is where you see all your revenues and expenses. And an important number on this page is third from the bottom, you'll see that your revenues exceeded your expenses by $222,000 this year. If we go to the next pages, those two are the most important statements. They have all your assets, all your liabilities, all your revenues and expenses. It gets a little bit confusing whenever we flip to the next page. On page 6 is where the fund financial statements start. And this is just that there's a difference between governmental accounting and full accrual. So in governmental accounting, the basic difference on your financial statements is that capital assets and long-term debt are recorded in income and expenses. We move them out to the balance sheet for the government-wide statements in the front. So if you turn it over here, then on page 8, the important number on this page is, again, it's the difference between revenues and expenses, but this one is often much lower because it includes your capital asset expenditures and your debt payments. And the $222,000 that I told you before doesn't, because those are applied to the balance sheet. So this net income is often lower. And this net income this year is negative $18,000. So expenses exceeded revenues by $18,000. And so when I got that far today, I thought they might want to know what that's all about, because last year your revenues exceeded your expenses by $400,000 when you passed that around. So that's a big swing from going from $400,000 positive to $18,000 negative. So I made a little worksheet so that you could kind of get an idea of what caused that difference. I'll wait for everybody to get a little worksheet. So this worksheet, as you'll see, it is this financial statement on page 8. And the first column is 2025, the second column is last year, 2024. And the first column comes down to negative 18, but last year that number was positive $482. So just to give you a little bit more of detail about how that happened, there's a difference column here, and as you can see, revenues increased by $200,000, but expenses increased by $700,000. So, the cost of things just outpaced the increase in the revenue. The revenue, the $200,000 increase was because we received $22,000 more in interest, so that was good. Interest income, and the basic school support increased by about $175,000. Down here in the expenses, we had a bigger difference, $700,000. One of the big things is the last line, capital outlay. We spent more purchasing assets. We spent $150,000 more than in the previous year. And over here to the side, I gave you the detail about what we bought last year. What came up, what totaled the $350,000. So right there's the list of what was purchased last year. And then the rest of that increase really is just instruction, support service, just the cost of stuff went up and outpaced the increase in revenue. So that's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting if an audit can be interesting. Let's see, in the report, if we go on, the next sections, we won't go through in too much detail, but page 10 is where it starts the note disclosures. And for governmental entities, there's just a really long checklist of all the required note disclosures, and so we make sure that those are all included in your report. All these just give a little bit more detail about the numbers in your financial statements and the accounting policies that you use. And on page 24 is where your budget to actual statements start. So for every fund that you adopt a budget for, there is a budget to actual statement. And again, if you add all these together, they agree to the numbers in the front. The very last item is a letter required by Oregon. It's on page 56, and this lists all those Oregon minimum standards that I told you that we test, and such as the budget and the public contracting and the ADM testing that we perform. There is, we do have to disclose if we found issues with any of those items listed. And the issues that we found are, there is on page 56, 3 budget violations where the expenditures exceeded the budget. And really, it wasn't that expenditures were too much, it's just that there was not a budget for those 3 funds. We report it there. We have never seen anything happen. It just goes there, and you might get a letter that says, "Oh, we were notified that there's some budget violations."
Looking at that now, we need to, I'll call you tomorrow,
Yeah.
because the geometry and construction should not be over. We had a resolution that I think might not be reflected in that.
Okay, all right. Maybe we missed that resolution. That was maybe approved afterward.
It just maybe got missed,
We'll look at
because we did it before we ever got the grant.
that. Okay, we can look at that tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's just fine.
So we didn't have budgets for Title I math, or we exceeded the budget we had?
We did not have a budget. In all 3 of these situations, there just wasn't a budget number. So it wasn't that expenses were too much, really. Yeah.
So we added those into our budget?
I think we exceeded them. There is a Title I budget.
I was gonna say, I can't imagine there's not a Title I budget.
Yeah.
We will have to look, we can look at
Okay.
that tomorrow. Title I math was its own fund, and we have reported it, but we can look.
Yeah. It's all of the same fund, but
Yeah.
yeah, we can go over that.
That is all I have in these reports to go over, but does anybody have any questions that pop up in mind? We're always open for questions, so if you ever thought of something either later tonight or tomorrow, we always take calls.
In our overage, of the 18,000 that we were over, does that come out of
Cash.
carryover
It's,
then?
yes.
Okay.
So that 18,000 isn't necessarily a budgeted item, it's cash. We spent more cash than we brought in, but we had cash
To
in a
cover
pot.
it.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And we knew that. We talked about that at the budget meetings, that we were gonna start eating into that cash carryover.
Yeah, the other thing that I did note, and I wrote it in my notes and then I went off on my own thoughts, was that your cash exceeded your current liabilities by $3,500,000. So that's still a good position to be in.
Okay.
All right.
Does anyone have any questions? Now, do we have to do anything or just, we just wait to hear?
Nope. I will get answers with Mindy about those items and understand them better, and I'll bring those back to you next month, but
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks again for having our firm come do your audit. We really appreciate it.
We're not sharp enough to have any questions.
Deb, would you like to join us up at the table?
Sure.
You're next on the agenda.
Spastics follow. Okay, well, I had discovered in my years since retiring 2 new perspectives. One following grandkids to sporting events, and the other is not being able to walk really well or access those sporting events. And what I wanted to talk about tonight was just to make you guys aware of you're not handicapped, and when you're not handicapped, you don't notice those kind of obstacles or hurdles that people have to overcome. So I've been spending through Hadley's last year and this year my grade B's volleyball games and basketball now. The only place for a handicapped person to sit in our gym are the little blue dots, and there's 2 of them, and they're in the doorways on both sides. I will tell you that as you go in, on the left side is more dangerous than the right side during volleyball, according to Mindy. I have personally been hit by 5 different balls. And even when you think you've dodged it, it will hit the wall behind you and whack you in the back of the head. And so it's not good. You can't see the game well. I had knee surgery in September. I'm having another knee surgery in December, and I'm hoping to graduate out of that, problem. And I've already been able to get up in the grandstands, but there are a lot of other people. And even in my physical therapist, we were just visiting, and I had told him about getting hit in my new knee with a volleyball, and he said, well, his father-in-law is a double amputee, and he could watch his granddaughter's games in every gym in the league except ours. And that's sad, because we have that beautiful ramp now that gets you in there, and then you only have 2 little spots. And there have been more than one person. I've sat with several people, and I also feel like the Walmart greeter, because you're sitting there, and everybody that comes by, which is fine, but it's just not where I don't think anybody would really like to watch a game. And so I know that when you guys did the bond, that there was talk of fixing something for handicapped, and I don't know, all of the particulars. I have visited with Mindy about it, and I know that it was not cost, the cost was a lot higher. I do have one idea, because I sat there and looked at it and analyzed it. And one thought I had was, at the far end on the home side, you come up from the girls' locker room, that first section isn't used a lot. And if you could just, when the stairs are there, maybe cut it out and put a lift that a person on a wheelchair and maybe a person standing behind them, and lift them to that first level. So don't take the wall out, and then take that set of seats and the second set of seats out. It would give you about 5 feet, maybe if you had to go back a little further, but I don't think you would have to. And go over even 2/3 of that section. And so when you go up the stairs, that first row, that level, you wouldn't take it or the wall out, so you have protection, the same as everyone else in the gym. But you would have room to put a wheelchair there, and the lift shouldn't be exorbitant price, because it's not gonna be huge. I mean, I was just MacGyvering it, and thought you could even just something similar to a Tom lift on the back of a pickup, or, you know, not that big, but just a lift that would only lift you, I think it's what, it's not even 3 feet to come up. But then they could roll in there and sit, their family could sit around them on the remaining seats. But they're in the gym and they can watch their grandkids play. And, so it's just, it's weird, it's like, until you have something happening, you don't notice it with other people. I would never have thought of it. There's a few other things, like, I know that's not instant and it's cost, you know, the money's gotta be there, but you have $3,500,000. So anyway, just kidding. The door is broken into the gym, that you hit the button in order for it to pop open. If you have a walker or a wheelchair, it doesn't work. These are things that maybe could be fixed during this winter session, so it's handier to handicap people. There's a school,
Which door is that?
the main door to the
You
gym.
guys know about it?
I didn't know that wasn't working, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
The button on the outside,
And the inside. I've tried them both. They do not open the door.
we've had that fixed multiple times. I apologize, I did not know it was broken.
Yeah, well, no, and I'm not like, I'm just saying, this is what I've experienced in, you know, like after December 2nd, you're not gonna see me up there anyway. I'm gonna be home with my ice machine on. But there are other people, and there are other grandmas and grandpas and people with handicap. This volleyball season, I watched a mom carry a kid up into the grandstands every time he was on a knee scooter. I think he was one of our elementary kids, probably. But there are, you know, and I know from just talking in the community, there are people who don't even try to come to games because there's no place to be. And grandparents like to watch their kids, and grandkids like to have their grandmas there. Okay, so the other thing, and these are not, I don't want to be nitpicky, I just want to share my experience so that maybe, because it's probably something that nobody's even thought of. So the white bus is parked right in front of the gym. And there are people, Denny Langford and Colleen and Roe and Val Decker. It's like a race to get up there to get the one, well, there's two, but it's on the other, of the handicap parking spots. And that bus is right there in prime parking space for the front of the gym for people who really have a lot of pain or whatever their reason is for getting into the gym. So that would be a really easy little fix. And this last winter, I went up, and the snow, whoever scrapes the sidewalks or the parking lot, they pile it in the handicap spot in front of the gym. So, I mean, that's just a few things that could happen, maybe to make it easier for people, you know, until something can be done where somebody has a place to sit.
We appreciate you bringing these to our attention, because you're right. If you're not in that situation, it's not something we would discover.
No,
So,
it's like anything, it's like, you know, you don't, you know, realize that allow everybody in there, everybody has a lab dog until you get a lab dog, and you don't, you know, like, it's just a perspective, and it's just been something that I've struggled with and become aware with, and I've gone to a lot of different schools in the last couple of years following grandkids and great-nieces, and it's handled, it's different everywhere, it's not perfect anywhere, but I just know that as a union, we can do better.
Certainly, some of these are easily fixed. They're just oversights, so absolutely.
Well, just the white bus had, the reason it was parked there is because the gas was being siphoned out. And the
Oh, I'm
camera is right there, and that was the one place that we could park it, that we could actually get a visual of the perpetrator. And so that is kind of an unfortunate thing there with the camera. And with snow, we can address that issue.
Indoor, for sure.
Yeah, and I didn't know that, I don't use the handicap button. So
Exactly.
I wouldn't
I know,
that-
it's
that's
like
not
you
what-
don't use it, you don't realize. It's been a, you know, real wide eye opener even for me.
And I will tell you that through the long process, we went over and over and over different options of what to do with the gym. And it's not very inexpensive. Any
No,
of the
I know.
options that.
Yeah, and that's why I was wondering about this one, because you wouldn't have to structurally take down to the ground level. If you just put a small lift in and got up to that first level, maybe it would be less expensive.
And we can look into those kinds of prices. The one thing that I did think of when Minnie did mention this to me is I thought of back in the days of baseball, we had, as a pitcher, you're pitching batting practice and you have the little screen in front of you.
Mhm.
You could get a screen, and put it in between where you would sit and where the volleyballs would come, and that would prevent the volleyballs from coming to hit you.
Right.
And that could be something that we could do temporarily.
That would be good, because, someone older, I'm old, but someone even older that wouldn't have the reflexes or or a husband that blocked it a few times. It's like, yeah, and the space, there's just, I realize the doors are wider, but if you have more than one person on that blue dot, or next to that blue dot, it's a traffic jam kind of there. I've graduated, until December 2nd, then I'll be back in the doorway again, but, it's really other people I wanna represent tonight, because I'm hoping to not need that blue dot after, by spring. But, it's just one of those things, I'm like, gosh, and just that we should be better for our handicapped people in our community.
Absolutely. We appreciate you bringing it to our attention. The ADA piece sitting in the stands is, as Carter said, it's tricky because of the way the gym is built, and
Mhm.
just simply to tear into that because of the way it's been, you're dealing with infrastructure.
Right.
That's where we run into issues with that part, but the rest of these things we can absolutely take care of, and we can look into your idea. I don't know if something similar was looked at or not, but we can certainly look into it.
We spent a lot of time on that.
Oh, I know you did.
process, and
I
it
just-
was very discouraging, and I'm actually glad we didn't do the proposed plan, because the proposed plan was to take the bleachers out and have the handicapped people sitting right there by the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you recall, Mindy, I don't remember the exact price.
And it was a terrible idea.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was more
So we
dangerous.
did look really hard into it.
Uh-huh.
And then we finalized on widening those doors, so that there was a location,
Mhm.
that you weren't in the middle of the action.
Yeah. Still feel like,
Still feel like a target?
no, and I don't wanna, sell short all of the things that were done. It's, beautiful, and we have the best gym, and have since it was built in the league. It's a beautiful gym. It would just be nice for our older, grandparents and different people who can't to get, and the new steps are great. That's the only thing that got me in there, is the shorter steps on the ends. It's all wonderful. But, I guess I just want more.
Well, if you don't ask, you don't get for sure, so, yeah, you've got it in the notes.
Can you put a locking gas cap on the bus?
We have,
Oh.
they stop, they cut the gas lines.
Underneath.
Could we just
Toledo.
move it during games though, and put it back?
We can do something.
Yeah.
Well, I stopped trying to get up there, because when I found out it was Denny and Colleen and the other people that are older than me, I was feeling better too, but I started gimping further.
Yeah, okay.
How many handicap spaces are in front of our gym?
There's
One.
one right by the ramp, the first one. And then there's a sign on the old music, or is that the music building now?
No, it's wrestling.
Wrestling room, okay. There's one there, but it looks like it's supposed to be in the middle of the parking lot, and you can't park there because nobody can get out or in beside you. And I think there might be,
Right.
Mhm.
yeah, and so it's misleading.
It's the
But I-
leftover, yeah.
I think is there a handicap on the end of that row in front of the gym?
There's
No, on the other side.
Yeah, there is one
Clear
on
the
the
other
school
side,
side.
clear on the end.
So over by the elevator.
If you're leaving the parking lot to the left, there's one, but not on the right side.
Okay.
Just as far away from the gym
But
door
it's-
as we could put it.
Yeah.
It's for the
Yeah,
elevator.
it's for the elevator access.
Right, which
Yeah.
it makes sense. And even if there could be a few more in front of the gym that are handicap, spots for older people to come. I think so.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much. We appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Hey, it's got the first one was absolutely awesome, and this one's gonna be even better, so.
Sweet.
Let's hear from the athletic department.
Okay, I hope you've got the report right there in front of you. Really, right now, there's not a ton to report because we're kind of at that stage between seasons. We've mostly wrapped up fall and we haven't started high school's winter sports seasons yet. But all of our winter sports have had, all of our high school winter sports have had preseason meetings. And so what you see there is the numbers based on what they heard or kids that attended those meetings. So that's what it looks like for our high school sports. And then these are the actual numbers from our middle school basketball season, which is happening right now. So, and there was some talk again about potentially not including sixth graders on that girls' middle school basketball team, but there's few enough turnout that they went ahead and included this year. So, and that's just kind of something we balanced every year a little bit based on the numbers that we see.
Okay.
So practices for high school winter sports begin next Monday, the 17th. Competitions for those begin in that first week in December. So it's a little bit longer of a preseason this year than we're used to, which is a good thing mostly. We are, that fourth point there, we just want to make you aware that we're looking at changing our wrestling from a co-op to a collective, and that's not something that's changing this year. It may not even change in the next 2 years, but just in case you haven't been watching things on the horizon, there's in about a month here, OSA is going to make some decisions about reclassifying schools and what classification we're in, and then there's talk about districts, and then miles of fallout after that. Anyway, what is in our future a couple years down the road as these big classes come up to our high school level is potentially our co-op sports being large enough between Union and Cove that we are no longer a 2A school, but we would be competing at the 3A level. So there's just some things to think about with that fallout. In a sport like wrestling, where we have traditionally had very few Cove athletes, it doesn't make sense for us to co-op with them and not have athletes or anyway.
What is the competitive difference too between the 2A and 3A in wrestling?
Yeah. So there's some discussion for future days and so forth, but this, for an individual sport like wrestling, a collective allows the teams to practice together, still be coached by the same coach, but compete independently so that both schools can compete as a 2A school instead of together as a 3A school. Okay, point number 5, we wrapped up cross country, and I was there, and I thought that they did I thought that the teams performed tremendously. I don't know how you can be disappointed about bringing home 2 trophies. Yes, the kids and coaches always have higher expectations for the sport that they're in. The boys wanted to finish higher, the girls hoped to finish higher, but ultimately both teams got on the podium and bring home hardware. And we're really proud of our cross-country coaches this season. You can imagine the trade-off from Steve Sheehy doing it forever, very decorated. Anyone is going to face some battles. We're really proud of what they've accomplished this season. And then, of course, volleyball fell short their season ended at the district tournament. They did not go to state this year. And finally, we've got a second round playoff game this Saturday at 1 p.m. for football. And that's against Imbler here at home. So we would encourage you to come out and enjoy that game and support them. We hope to beat Imbler for the second time this year.
A couple things to add. Middle school basketball's off to a dry. I haven't heard how they did tonight. They're playing Griswold tonight. But see, we get straight in my head. The B boys and the A girls are 4-0, and the B girls and the A boys are 3-1. So they've had in the Enterprise kind of got the B girls pretty good Saturday, but it was a really tight boys game. Good fun game to watch Saturday up there on the A boys side. But they're doing good. The kids are looking good, looking like they're having fun. OSA's last proposal, a little bit on that. Didn't really change the league that we're in. The one variable they threw in there is they proposed a 3A, 4A hybrid league in Eastern Oregon, which basically all the schools involved said we don't want that. I think OSA is just trying to figure out a way to help them because there's not many 3A, 4A schools but hopefully they don't go with that because they all spoke like, hey, we're fine, we don't want that, let it be. I say that because that could impact us in, like say, baseball, softball. If we went up to, if we stay co-op and we went up, then we would be 3A, then we would be in this 3A, 4A league, which would be a variable that, because honestly, if it's just us going to 3A, it's not that bad competitive-wise, maybe even better. But if you throw 4A in and we're having to play 4A teams, it might not be so good. So, but anyhow, we'll see. They're getting down to the nitty-gritty. It's, I think, December 9th.
Yeah, that's right.
We do have the junior high tournament coming up. It is, let me try to do it right, I don't misquote. So December 12th and 13th, we'll be hosting the boys junior high tournament. Cove will host the girls. And then the next week we have a Bobcat Classic, and fingers crossed, knock on wood, we have 8 teams on both sides, so I've got some backup things in place in case somebody tells me they're not coming, but that's been a zoo trying to get teams to commit. Actually had a team pull out on us just a few weeks ago. But anyhow, we've got people in place, so I won't bother you with my venting about that. Just that right now we've got 8 and 8 boys, 8 girls, and so it should be fun.
Any questions for us?
It does not appear so. It appears you're off the hook. Thank you for coming and presenting. All right, Carter, you're up.
I apologize about the technical difficulties. I don't know exactly what's going on. I love the internet. Don't you love it?
I love technology, period.
Okay.
Take it anywhere. Not
So as you can see, the report there, happy to say we have 184 students, 712 in the high school right now. That's 11 up from where we were at this point last year. Yeah, kind of crazy. And like these guys talked about with, if you look at our high school numbers of 118 right there, if you add Cove and us together, that would put us into probably a 3A special district. Conferences, we had quite a few, probably our most active parent-teacher conferences, and our new staff is extremely compassionate. You can see that in those conferences when they care about kids, they really put their heart out there, and I think we made some difference in some kids' lives. Veterans Day Assembly, Mr. Wyatt in our U.S. History class did that on Monday, and that's great. It's well attended, it's really positive. It's great to hear the elementary kids sing, you know, all those little things. It's fun, and it kind of reminds me why we do this stuff. And then we're going to turn around and host the Academic Success Assembly. That'll be next Tuesday, and Rondi always does a great job with that. Upcoming events, we got Thanksgiving right around the corner, and then the Christmas concert. I'll talk more about the complex internet, which I can't wait for later. Eligibility, this is really cool. For students failing 2 classes as of Monday, and that's down from 4 from this time last year. They're 8 on it. This is what gets interesting, okay? 14 total students with 1 failing grade after 9 weeks. Mark, Deb, you probably remember those big eligibility reports that had like 65 kids on it. That's down to 14. It's crazy. And so looking at that, 93% of our high school student body is passing all of their classes. And that, I think it comes down to the Bobcat Den. The Bobcat Den and us doing eligibility the way we do, Rondi, Shay, in there working with kids. Kids don't want to be sent to the Bobcat Den because it's like there's some negativity with it. And so what are they doing instead? They're doing their schoolwork, so they don't have to get there. It's pretty.
Whatever works.
Yeah, and we're doing it, and it's really good. Discipline. Since our last meeting, we've had 9 lunch detentions, 1 after school, a couple of in-school suspensions, and 1 out-of-school suspension. I talked with our elementary staff this week and our high school staff last week about the budget outlook. If you haven't been following, the state ODE was charged with producing a 2.5% reduction in this calendar year to the legislature and another 2.5% reduction next year. And so, you know, an example is outdoor school. They reduced outdoor school by like 20%. And so that's kind of what's coming down the pike. Pay attention to the revenue forecast that comes out. I think it's the 18th or the 19th of this month. Yeah, that's gonna be very pivotal. If there's a bigger hole in the revenue, that means more cuts. If there's not as big of a hole as they predicted, that means we might not have to cut as much. And so next week is a big kind of telltale tipping point for us. The heater in the gym. We budgeted $50,000 for that because that's what the cost was last spring. The actual cost now, after all the tariffs and all the things that have gone on, it's doubled in price. And so what we did with the Cool Schools program, and this is my favorite analogy, is we've got our big crew cab, long bed, dually pickup of our gym, right? It's big, it's old, it's bulky, all right? What did we put in there to heat it? A 4-cylinder. And so we wore out the 4-cylinder because we were using it all the time. And so that was what the Cool Schools program philosophy was. It was like, you're not gonna have as big of a heater, so your heat bill won't be as big. You're not gonna be using as much energy. And it worked for about 12 years. Now they don't sell parts for that style of heater that's in there, so we have to replace it. And we're gonna replace it with something bigger and better that hopefully lasts the rest of our lifetimes. So that's kind of a bummer. And then because of all of this, I had to model the behavior I'm expecting from the staff. Okay, and so I went to the staff and I said, if you don't need it, you don't buy it. You have to have it to teach a lesson. Like, so you go to Jamie and you say, okay, you're gonna teach your clay unit, you're gonna buy your clay, right? But, oh, I really want this new whiteboard. No, that's the kind of message I said. And so because of that, my example to the staff was like, hey, I'm canceling the Christmas party because that's money that's fun, it's great, it's morale booster, all those things, but is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. And that's the kind of message that I tried to deliver and modeled that behavior for them. Is it perfect? No. But I think we're gonna make it. I think we're gonna get through this year without any big problems that I foresee. But then we'll see what next year brings and what the financial situation is. So I have a ton of attachments, and I'm not, some of them I'm gonna talk about later, but I will just kind of hit the highlights real quick. The high school newsletter. I don't know if you saw the newsletter in the city. Yes. That was really well done. That's Rondi. Rondi knocked it out of the park there. This newsletter is really good for your information. That's the first attachment. The second one, this one is U Science. So we have kids that 83 students completed the brain games. And this is just interesting information to me, because it's all about their interests, and then, you know, their top 3 aptitudes or their top 3 interests. And so it's kind of interesting when you look at the data and you look at what our kids are interested and what their aptitudes are. This is for you to take home and you to look at and digest, and then if you got questions about it, give me a call. The next one, it's a 2-pager, and it is the spirit of competition. It's the FRC team. The FRC team went to an uplift event in Umatilla, and they won the Spirit Award. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty informational. I recommend that you read it. And the RoboCats, you know, I mean, obviously a soft spot in my heart, but it's cool. They went over and they competed and they represented us well. The next thing is the first quote from Alpine Alarm for the cameras. The first quote, amazingly enough, is one quote is $5,800, and then the next quote is 18 grand. And they're not even close. Anyway. So you asked me to get those. I will pursue the Alpine Alarm and see if that's something that Mindy and I Mindy can work some magic in the budget and see if that's even doable, or if it's something that we have to budget for next year. Okay, then the next form is Mid-Columbia. Mid-Columbia, I asked them for the mileage and for the update on our fleet. So the issue is that in the state of Oregon, you cannot have a bus 15 years old or older. So that's the threshold. There's no mileage requirement, but 15 years. The bus can be 15 years old and you can keep it. Once it turns 16, it goes away. So if you look at our top Route 1, the Valley Route, bus number 198 is a 2011. In 2026, that goes away. And we will get a newer to us bus. Not necessarily a new bus.
Probably won't be new.
Yeah. But then you can see, you know, you look at the Suburban has 26,000 miles on it. 1671, that's our handicap bus, that has 15,000 miles on it. And then we have 2 trip buses, and they both have 130 or 160,000 miles on it. And the Type 20 has 30,000 miles on it. So you can see that the one bus that has broke down twice on us is the one that is the oldest. And the last thing that broke on it was the electronic control module, which you just never know when that's going to go bad. So they've replaced it and it's back in service, and we've got, you know, everything is here and everything is running. I did have a very good meeting with them, and obviously they're very apologetic about, you know, breakdowns, but it's hard to predict that kind of stuff. The next page.
Question, why do we have our oldest buses as the trip buses?
Oldest buses.
Because our Route 2 Catherine Creek is a 2023, is that like a baby bus or something?
That's the Suburban.
The Suburban.
Oh, that's a Suburban.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, so we don't really have an option, they're all old.
I mean, older, I think the 1637, that bus was brand new to us in 2016. And so we put every ounce of mileage on that one. We requested a second trip bus, and that's what 1806 is. It's so we have like 2 big diesel pusher buses. And then the next one is an email from Celeste Tate, which shows you on November 25th at 6 o'clock. I will be in there for the minor partition, the zone change from commercial amusement, which isn't that interesting? This property is considered commercial amusement.
to residential, and then the variance for the lot size and the variance for the tiny home. And so we'll see what they say. You know, I'm gonna ask, and this is one of my goals, and so I'm working on it.
At one time, the carnival for the stock show was on our grounds up there. So it was amusement.
Okay. And then all of the remaining stuff I'm gonna talk about, at later on in my, in information and discussion items.
I saw that Keely Jones won a silver award at the National FFA Convention. Very nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations to her, and also the FFA advisor. So, yay.
Yeah, they're doing great things.
All right. Mindy.
I don't really have a report other than the checklisting that's going around, but I will get some more information on those overages and confirm. I do know that the expenditures in title were over. We spent more than I anticipated, but I don't think the one on the tiny home, we did have a resolution, and I bet they just didn't put that in there, so.
Okay, perfect. Well, that'd
We'll
be
talk
great.
about that.
All right. Chris.
All right, well, you can see that we are up 4 kids in the elementary from last month. We've added in one of our 2nd grades, 4th grade, 5th grade, and then one of our 6th grades. So we're at 206 in the K-6 school. And then just a couple of notes. Conferences were well attended, like Carter already mentioned. A lot of good conversations. It was a positive experience. Our 4th graders are headed to EOU next Wednesday, I believe it's the 19th, to attend the Grand Ron Symphony. They do a great job of introducing kids and giving them a little culture about the music instruments, and that is a county-wide 4th grade event, and it is an annual event that's been happening for about 5 or 6 years. And then on the 26th, we will have our annual K2 annual Thanksgiving feast, where on the 25th, those classes will make pumpkin pies and do their best to wash their hands.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then the next morning, they put on a couple of little shows for the parents and grandparents that come, and then they partake in that pumpkin pie.
It's
So,
priceless. It's
a-
absolutely priceless.
It's a fun time. And then, of course, on the Wednesday, the 26th, we have our early release for Thanksgiving. So, are we doing this later? The reports?
Yeah, let's I'll do mine and then you do yours at the quarterly superintendent check-in.
Okay.
Oh,
Which is, we're there.
Okay, so I'll start this. I'd like you to turn your attention to this page in the packet that I gave you. And this is Ronnie. I absolutely love the way that she thinks and the way that she sees things. It's absolutely the exact opposite of the way I see them. And so I think it's really good. So that's everything that's included that we're gonna talk about in here. Some of the stuff Chris will talk about 3rd grade reading, but I'll hit my stuff and then we'll let Chris kind of finish it up with 3rd grade reading at the end. And his statistics. So if you go to the first page, it looks like this. The big thing that I want you to look at is this RPMs gauge at the bottom. We have been talking about attendance, and that's been one of the goals. Attendance, attendance, attendance. We put it up on the board. It's out on the street as all the elementary comes in. You can see what the day prior was. And so for high school to be at almost 92%, that is remarkable, okay? But if you look at the graph on the left where it says regular attenders and then it says chronically absent, anybody chronically absent would be considered 3 1/4 days absent in the first quarter. That's 9 weeks.
That's not very much.
That's not very much, exactly. And so chronic absenteeism is anything below 90%, which is pretty hard to do when you think about it. And so that's what I'm saying is we are working at it, we're working hard, we are starting to really see some data, and a lot of this is the push that we keep talking about it, and we're talking about it, and we're talking about it. So that's the first page. Then the second page, if you look at the first blue column, that's attendance percent by school. The high school's at 92%, right? I said that. The second blue one at the top is incidents by school, and so that's all of our behavior incidents. So any kind of behavior incident that has happened at school in the first quarter is logged into Synergy and it records it there. The majority of them are cell phone violations.
Oh, sure.
Which are, they're step one of the cell phone violation, the kid comes and picks it up after school. Now we're gonna talk math, okay? So iReady math, that is, you can see we have, some at-risk kids, we have some, kind of low-risk kids is yellow, and then no-risk kids is green. Baseline data, this is our baseline, this is the beginning of the year, and as we do our quarterly checks like this, we're hopeful to see this grow. The data on the right is the same as the data on the left. The graph I'm really excited to show you is the one in the bottom right-hand corner. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner and you see the blue, there's like a little blue graph, that starts beginning of 2022. That's the first line. It says beginning of 22, then middle of 23, then end of 23. Look at the growth from 22 to 23. We went from about, 15 to 18% to almost 35%. You can see in just that 1 year. And then look at the steady growth. We had a decline at the beginning of the next year, but look at the steady growth from there. We're over 40% for our ready results looking into, the end of 25. So that's math over time, which is pretty interesting. So I'm gonna kill you with statistics tonight. The next page is STAR. So we have STAR math and STAR reading. Not every student takes STAR math, but you can see like 7th grade is the top column. There's one kid that's at high risk in STAR math. We have 16 kids at no risk, and we've got 14 kids in the some or low. And so you can see the statistics as it goes across. And then let's look at reading for that same 7th grade group. Okay, we have 3 maybe high risk, 3 some risk, 6 low risk, and 22 at or above with no risk. And so you can see there's some good statistics here, but this is all of our baseline data for the beginning of the year, and we'll be bringing it quarterly to you. Very, very interesting. And so then you look at the next page is just the STAR by subject. So you've got math, 50% of our kids that took the math assessment, so you can see it's not all of them, and 63% of our kids that took the reading, they're all at no risk. And so this is our baseline data. Where do we go from here? And so we're gonna be tracking this stuff. And we talked at our elementary staff meeting today about, doing 3 assessments a year, doing the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. And I think we need to incorporate that into the high school as well. And so that's very interesting data. Then the other next page is NGOT is our 9th grade on track. And this is the biggest document that you can get really confused really fast. So if you look at it, this page right here, it looks like this. You can see current grade and it says 9th grade, and then it keep going over to the right, 34 students. We have 9 students that have a D or an F, and we have 25 students that are at no risk with those in that category. And then you just keep sliding over. So if you look at it like this and you go to the next page, it's just kind of, the graph kind of goes like that. You see what I mean? And so then you can look at incident counts, 3-year failing marks, out of school suspension, and then you keep, those are all the different categories. It tells you how many are in what risk category. And this is just for our ninth graders. And so then you have, then you're looking at in-school suspensions, failed marks, attendance percent by year, and then it concludes with attendance percent by term and absent days. And so if you want to get even crazier, you're going to turn to the next page, and it looks like, and you can go by a specific kid, and you can look at what is their specific issue, and you look at that top kid. I won't say their name, so please don't release this information to anybody, but their attendance is below that 90% because they've missed 5 days. They missed 5 days in 9 weeks. That means they came to school every other week perfectly. And then now, because their attendance is at 84.5%, they're red, so they're considered, high risk. That kid is not high risk. That kid comes from a great family that just has had 1 3/4 too many days absent. And so it's almost like we're looking through too close of a microscope at some of this stuff. But this is the state of Oregon, and this is their decision of 90% is the threshold. If you're below 90%, you're considered high risk. And it's
What
very
a nice report, though, for staff to be able to look at each kid individually and go, okay, I'm looking at this kid and, yeah, 5 absences, okay, but we know the situation there, so we can check that off. But you still have that flag to check.
And so then it says right there, it says a letter and graph regarding current attendance for the first quarter was sent home, with the update of regarding truancy. And so it's going to take us some time, right? It takes us time to teach these kids what these new thresholds are.
Right.
Excuse me. But it's really, really great information, and I really do think that we are making some serious strides with this stuff. So that's ninth grade on track. Now I'm going to the next thing, which is one of my goals is about assessment. And so Josh White and I looked at this, and you can see here's the different kinds of assessments. The Oregon statewide assessment system, it's now called OSAS, used to be called OAKS. You can see the problem with this one, and you look at that, is they can opt out. So data isn't, perfect. And so we want to identify student growth, we want to identify student learning gaps, we want to identify longitudinal data, and there is a no opt-out for district assessments. So if we go to this page now, and you look at the SAT school day, we can test every 7th grader through 12th grader we would do it in March. That's the window. It would cost us $1,300. If we did the ACT, that's going to be $6,300. If we just rely on the Oregon statewide assessment, it's not as valid of data because we still allow the opt-outs.
Well, and for high school, you only get to test 11th graders. There's no.
You
9
7th,
to 10.
8th, yeah, 7th, 8th, 11th. And so
That's, yes.
looking at this $1,300, I'm interested in going to Mindy and saying, pretty please. I mean, I know that I have spent way too much money, but I think it's worth a try.
Who else is using this?
Well, the state of Colorado has gone away from the entire assessment system, and they just go to the SAT.
They're using this.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see how they like it, yeah.
And so I feel like we're gonna get math, we're gonna get English language arts data, that will be good data for us, which are the 2 major categories that we get assessed on. And I wanna know, are we doing good in geometry? Are we doing good in algebra? And we take a day in March, we make it a half school day, and we bring them in, we feed them, they go to their connections teacher, the connections teacher starts the test, proctors the test for them, and then I go around and help, and then when they're done, they go down, they get lunch, and they go home. It's about a 3.5 hour test, and then we reward them, thanks for your effort, go home, relax for the weekend. And then, oh, you missed it, sorry, you're coming into my office on Monday morning and you're taking the assessment, and I'm the one who gets all the people who missed. So, and I don't know, maybe we incentivize you get the highest score, we're gonna give you an award or something. So those are the things that I'm thinking about. I got so much stuff going in my head right now. So then you go to the next page, which is the honors diploma application. My thought would be, if you look at the back side of this application, we make a requirement passing the statewide assessment as part of, if you want to get an honors diploma, you have to have a passing score on the Oregon statewide assessment. I mean, what better way to know that these kids have put the effort in? And so all of this stuff is like food for thought, stuff that's going through my head that I just need to get out in the open. You can take away, think about it, talk to your people, call me on the phone and tell me I'm crazy. And then the final page, the final 2 pages, that's the net I told Deb about. I didn't want to put it in her face.
Yeah.
You know, it's something I thought about. I thought about being a baseball player, and I remember coaching baseball, and you had the net there. If we were worried about, it's a very inexpensive time saver, so to speak. If you know what I mean, like where we could look at and get quotes and then see if we have to save, $10,000 out of this budget, $10,000 out of that budget to be able to afford what she's talking about. So that's the net, and then the final.
Way to watch your game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
it's better than getting hit in the face. 'Cause
yeah,
you can't dodge it.
yeah. So the final thing that I put in there is this refocus form, and I would say that this and the Bobcat Den has changed my life as far as a disciplinarian at the school. So when a teacher has an issue with a kid, they send the kid to the Bobcat Den, the kid fills this out. Then the student has to visit with, if it's a high school kid, it's me or Rondi or Chris. If it's an elementary kid, it's me or Rondi or Chris. It's whoever's available. And then we follow up on the back side. So the kid fills out the front side, and we as the individual visiting with the kid. And this system works great. They get one refocus form. It's their get out of jail free card, right? Like, hey, don't do that again. Let's talk about ways that you can avoid this. Have you talked to your teacher? Have you asked to change your seat? Have you gone in after school? We talk about here's all the tools that you have that you can use this. If they get a second refocus form, the teacher contacts the parents, and then with that is their first office referral. So then they're the first step on the office referral policy of the high school. And then, then that's going to be me calling home. We're going to log the incidents in Synergy. We'll put whatever consequence we assigned in there, is it an after-school detention because it's the second time they've thrown a paper airplane in the classroom, that kind of thing. And so this really is a very big positive thing, and just reiterates to me that the value of the Bobcat Den and the value of what Rondi is doing through the Bobcat Den, through attendance, and through this kind of stuff. And I think teachers like it because the teacher gets the follow-up, right? This not only goes in the kids' mailbox, but then it gets logged into Synergy, and then it gets copied and goes back into their mailbox. So you as a teacher are going to get immediate feedback by the end of that day. You're going to know that, oh, this is what Carter did. This is what Carter told the kid. This is immediate. And so it kind of tightens that gap, right? That information gap to where we can get as much information to teachers as possible. I apologize that I just kind of gave you all kinds of information. You're going to go away and you're going to go hey, I don't get this. Call me and, we'll talk about it. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. And I'm excited about where we're going next. And then I'll just kind of turn it over to Chris to let him talk about his, and I think he put those on in front of you, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, very similar to Carter's report, we can go through the front page there if you want to. You kind of work your way. You can see the state assessments, the OSAS there kind of in the middle bottom, the incident reports, the assessments at the top, where it looks like we have 106 high at risk. That's over every kid in the elementary that took a district assessment this year that could take it. So we're talking about first and second graders that are, not quite there at the beginning of the year. And so we do have a lot of kids that are high risk, and it's our job right now to get them out of that risk zone. And that does happen a lot in the primary classes when you're assessing at every level. So it's a little bit of an alarming number, but it's pretty traditional that that's going to happen. So if you have questions on that, you can see that kids in the elementary do like to come to school. We're at 94%.
That's awesome.
And
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And if you head to the next page there, we've had 35 logged. I am not the best at filling those out all the time when they see it. I solve a lot of problems, and it could be maybe more, but 35 seems reasonable for 9 weeks, and those were big enough to write down. But yeah, we put a lot of fires out and redirect kids back to the classroom quickly. But we did have 35 that were worth writing or making a phone call home about. And then Carter kind of shared the iReady stuff, and one thing I will say is that when we adopted the iReady math curriculum, we adopted it K-8. And so that data that you've seen in the junior high has been building in the elementary with the same terminology, the same system, the same assessment type. And so those kids are benefiting from that same familiarity as they get into junior high and high school. And I do think that they're, I don't really like the cost of curriculum, but I think that iReady sells a pretty good product. And then they sell a product that allows us to collect this data that's worthwhile. And then, like I was able to talk to my staff today, which you'll see here on the next page, there's data where we can identify the need. So this next is a combination of STAR, reading, and math. So for the overall, don't look at kindergarten, because we had one kid in kindergarten this year that was kind of like a Doogie Howser. And so we said, hey, this kid, there's no grade that this kid should stay in first grade. And so we said, hey, let's just play with it and take a STAR reading and math test, and she did very well. Most kindergarten kids cannot, get past the name part of STAR reading and math. But this little girl did, and she is now in first grade. So that's the kindergarten one. So if you move down to sixth grade, you can see that 50% of our sixth graders, so we have 44 sixth graders, 56% of them are at no risk. They're performing exactly or better where they're supposed to be. 21% are a little, they're at level. 11% are in that risk, and then we have 13 that are at a high risk, 13%. And so that's a total of those reading and writing combined. And then the next page breaks it down individually to reading and math. And so, again, this is the kids taking the test for right now, and we will compare. We generally redo these tests in January, so we break it into thirds, like Carter attested to, and we should start seeing, hopefully, the dark green get bigger and the yellow and orange get a little bit smaller. So,
can we go back to this guy here?
sure.
Which one?
The 25-26 iReady scores for cohort over time.
Oh, yeah,
Where
okay.
we're really not showing. I don't understand what it's telling us. The high school one, we saw some steady climb. What is this telling us?
So at the beginning,
It's math, obviously, but.
correct. So, I'm trying to find the right ones. So you can see over the last 2 years, if you're right down in the middle, or beginning of 23 would be the fall of 23. When we took the test in January, we had a bit of a drop, and then at the end of 24, we regained some of that. At the beginning of 2024, we maintained that same number over the summer. In the middle of 25, so last year, in January, we had some significant growth. We ended very well last year at our highest percentage ever. And then we regressed over the summer and have started over with that.
All right. We're low in that percentile ranking. So hopefully that's gonna go up with,
Yeah, that's the hope.
yeah.
And I think, with what Chris is doing in classrooms with evaluations and observations and those kind of things, and Chris, it was a really good staff meeting today. When you were talking about different staff and the things that you're noticing, and you're talking about the terminology and things like that, it's gonna snowball. And I believe that, do we have room for growth? Of course we do. Do we have baseline data now that we know where we've started and we stepped off the curb, and now we gotta see how long it takes us to Frogger to get that up to where we want it to be, where we have that expectation.
And this is also an average of, first through sixth graders, needing that, 18% or whatever the number is there. So, we could get iReady for individual classes too, to kind of see that breakdown.
And I think that's what we are hopeful to do over time.
Sure.
This is my kind of, for me, my big focus over the last decade has been facilities. I mean, we did all the bond and all the meetings and and now I really feel like we're starting to look at what is our attendance rate at, because that's our kids there for us to teach them, and then are we being effective in the classroom? And I think this is, we gotta start.
Definitely, gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, and it's good stuff, and I think the staff is excited about it and, interested. They're bought in. And yeah, I would, yes.
Does anyone else have questions besides me?
Do we have any update on the Thrill Share app thing? Like, I know that was another one of the goals.
Well, there's a new product out. It's called Parent Square, and what we talked about it in the office, and we have neighboring districts that are going to try it. Okay. And so I said, hey, why don't we let them try it and let them work the kinks out for one more year and see what it's like. And then if everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, which I liked it, but Tracy and Mindy weren't sold. And so I learned long enough to where that, I know there's things I want, and I know there's things that are gonna be good, but let's let somebody, get the dust blown off of it first and get it worked out, so then we can just take it and we're just rolling. And so I'm gonna be contacting those other schools that adopt it over that next year, and see what are the pros and what are the cons, and then, have Tracy visit with the secretary and things like that. So I'm not losing sight on it, but I didn't want to jump off the curb on a brand new product that I don't know, I haven't been able to vet.
What are the expenses on those kinds of things?
It's very similar. It's thousands of dollars, but they're very similar in cost to what we currently use. But we currently use multiple products. We use Arbiter as a document for all of our sports documents, like all the digital sports documents. And so this program consolidates all of it into one. And so we just started with this Arbiter thing, and so I didn't want to you know what I mean? Like, you just got this new toy, and then I'm going to take it away from you. I felt like, okay, let's let the bugs get worked out, and let's see, and then.
We had already paid for it too, so there's that.
Yeah. So, anyway, so that's, yes, the Apogee is still there, we still have the app. I'm gonna try to get one of those QR code things for people and have in the office and maybe put it on the website for people to be able to download the app to get the information. And
We
then
sent it at one time. How did we send out the information about using it?
it was, I think it was a QR code.
Okay.
And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna resend all that information out, and then I'll add it to the registration packets. And so then it should all be there. But we don't use, like, I typically try not to use a thrill share unless it's something major. You know, I try not to inundate people with, you know, the basketball team is now leaving at 3:30 instead of 4:30. You know what I mean? I try not to use thrill share for that.
Yeah.
I try to use thrill share for, like, we had a major incident, you know, at school, you know, or we're canceling school, that kind of thing. Because I've seen other districts and other patrons have come to me and complained, and they're like, "Can you get this other school district to stop texting me?" And so there's a line, right? And I'm kind of in that philosophy of, like, if I'm gonna send something out, it's pretty major. You know, like a school cancellation. I did send a thrill share out when we had a threat. We had a threat on campus, and I sent a thrill share out with that. Those are the kind of major events that I feel like thrill share is for. But yeah.
We are just getting the information out to the city newsletter. I mean, we are doing
Yeah.
a few things that they're not high tech, but at least we're finding avenues to tell our story, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, tell us about internet connectivity.
We're waiting on the permits. Because it's coming down partially on the poles and then partially underground, we have to have permits for it to go onto the pole, and the permit hasn't been approved yet.
Oh,
So,
it's in.
yeah, we've submitted the stuff, the ESDS has submitted the stuff, we just haven't heard back that it's been approved yet.
What cost-wise are we talking about here?
That's all done through E-rate dollars.
It's about $8,500 to us, but it's a $40,000 project.
Okay, I had a thought,
Okay.
and, we're bringing the internet in so we can comply with what the state wants us to do with our meetings.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
Right. Why can't we move our meeting up there to where we already have it? And then we wouldn't have to spend the money. Is surely I don't want to say surely.
But the track team uses the internet when they host track meets. The baseball team does all their statistics through the internet. And once we add it to the baseball team, we're gonna have to add it to the softball team because of Title IX. And so it's not just gonna be the school board using the internet.
Well, maybe we can't afford it.
I think we've already signed the contract.
To do it, because we got the E-rate funds, and you have to apply for those E-rate funds.
Well, yeah, my only thought was, we could move our meeting
Yeah,
easily.
yeah, I agree. Trust me, you don't think I thought about that over here with the internet for half an hour that I couldn't get to connect, and then it just went into the spiral of, yeah. I agree, Mark, but I think at this point, like Mindy said, we're committed. So, and I did, and we've been, yeah,
Unfortunately,
It was-
everything takes the internet.
yeah.
It's the way of the world now.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
know you don't
good,
like it, Mark. I know you don't like it.
but it's a very good point, Mark. It's very valid, and unfortunately, I was so excited that we were gonna have it down here, because I hear from baseball or I hear from track with the conflicts and stuff like that.
But, I'm sorry, I'm too damned old, I guess, but whether we actually need stats for
Yeah.
the ball teams, if it's gonna cost us that much money, they can do it on paper.
Yeah, and you're right, that's a very good example of need versus want. And unfortunately, when we didn't know what we know now, when we signed up to hook the internet down here with the E-rate dollars.
When all that happens, we wanna visit with John about how we route it, cause just what little looking I did, and I'm not an engineer, but I have put up some fun stuff. We can get to the far corner pretty easily of the athletic field.
Okay.
And
Are you talking about this corner where the property,
No,
or where the
that
quants,
corner.
where the
yeah,
rail car is?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, where the ambulance gate is.
okay,
And my proposal would then be to bury conduit from there, over that way and down this way. Now, I haven't talked to John, I don't know what's over here, but if you come down, if you bury it on that side of things, there's all kinds of stuff in the way.
okay.
The light poles, and you're more likely to hit it there if we can kind of get it back here.
Yeah. It's a great idea, I will have it come.
I won't take any more time.
But yeah, as soon as the permits come through and as soon as I see a plan, I will make sure that we have exhausted that option.
Okay. Anything else on internet? Do we have a date, or it's just sitting there and
Waiting for the permit to be approved.
All right.
It's the city approves
No, I believe it's the,
Communications board
well,
or the planning, it wouldn't be planning
It's not
necessarily.
planning.
I don't know, I can find out. Who we are waiting on the permit.
Yeah. Update on formal complaints, and they have all been addressed. I gave you copies of all that I wrote, and Carter took care of all of the employees that he was responsible for. Alrighty, action items. It looks like we need to hire an educational assistant part-time. Tricia Seal, tell us.
We added a high school student that is handicapped that justified it with his mobility and assistance throughout the district as far as help in the classroom and support to the teachers. So we hired Tricia at 5 hours a day, which is under the benefit package criteria. And it is working well. She fits well with the student. It has been a success so far. And both the student and the parents are happy with the start to the school year here at Uni.
Nice.
That guy is living his best life. He is happy. You could just see it. He's glowing. And so we're doing a great thing for him.
And Tricia had subbed for us the first part of the year, in special ed specifically, and done well. And so far, she has been working with the student already, and it has been a great fit. So I highly recommend finalizing that process tonight.
I move we hire Tricia Seal as an educational assistant part-time.
I'll second.
We need to take a vote on this. Deb?
Aye.
And I for me as well. All in favor. We need to hire an assistant girls wrestling coach, Daisy Walden.
I'll take this one. She is our current 6th grade teacher and will be
somebody who's been volunteering and helped out with the program and will, I think, do wonderful things for our girls wrestling program. And I highly recommend her without a doubt.
Okey dokey, I'm moving we hire Daisy Walden as the assistant girls wrestling coach.
That's okay.
Deb, in favor?
Yes.
I'm also in favor, it's unanimous ayes in favor. Future agenda items, I don't know what that is. We're dealing with the superintendent evaluation, part of our new process. Item number 10 is executive session, and it is in place if we have questions for Carter. As the information that I sent out to you in the board packet just reminded us of the evaluation process that we took on, and we said that we were going to do check-ins quarterly, and he was to report out where he was with his goals. And then, and he could have chosen to do that closed or open. We're doing it transparently, but if any of you have questions for him, we can go into executive session and answer those questions. It is just a check-in. We're not doing any form of evaluation. That's not what this check-in is that we're doing. So, do any of you have?
I have a question. So if we would have asked some clarifying questions along the way while he was throwing all his data at us. So what's the difference between that and throwing it into the executive session and asking questions?
The executive session would be related personally to his performance.
Okay.
Yeah, no, his check-in report is public information. But the executive session would be if we want to ask him questions about his his specific performance.
Reviewing the stuff that was in the email, I think I feel pretty comfortable with the stuff I touched on.
Okay, you feel like and I included his goals on the backside of that, so you all saw his goals, and everybody's feeling pretty good about that. Okay, I don't believe we have any need for that executive session, so we will not choose to use that. I will say I really appreciate the check-in information. I appreciate that it addresses what you've chosen for goals and also what we have selected as board goals with academic progress, attendance, keeping our class sizes down. So I appreciate that information, and I think anybody who's following academically will also publicly appreciate that information. So thank you very much for that, and it sounds like we're getting started down the right track on that. Is there anything else for the good of the order this evening? We're all tired of school board meeting. All right, we are going to adjourn this meeting at 7:15. Thank you very much.